Hello, 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 welcome back to my channel. My name is Eva, this is Eva the Vegan, and we've hit 1,000 subscribers, which is kind of crazy for me. I've been on YouTube since I think 2017. I deleted all those videos. I changed my channel a few times, but anyways, so to celebrate 1,000 subscribers, and because there's quite a few new people here, I wanted to do a kind of Q&A and just introduce myself a little bit to all the new people here. And yeah, I would love it if you could do the same in the comments. Just comment down below how you got here, who you are, interests, hobbies, whatever. I would love to get to know you as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Have myself a cup of tea. So the first thing I want to do is kind of introduce myself. So my name's Eva. I am a environmental science student, so I'm currently studying my undergraduate in environmental science. I am in my final year, so I'm doing my dissertation this year. My dissertation is in measuring decadal changes in glacial thickness using aerial photography and remote sensing techniques, which is really exciting because I have always wanted to study ice. I am hoping to do a master's degree and then follow that on to a PhD and become a glaciologist or a climatologist. I want to study the cryosphere, all the icy parts of the world. That is my interest, with a particular interest in Antarctica and their glaciers, ice shelves, and the interactions between the sea and the ice. And I'm also really interested in the thermohaline conveyor, which is an 1,000-year cycle that transports heat and nutrients around the world's oceans, and the impact that large inputs of fresh water, like from melting glaciers and ice shelves, can have on that transport of heat, nutrients and energy around the planet, and the implications that that will have for our planet. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in. So because obviously I study environmental science, I have quite a good insight into the sustainability realm. I've also had various roles in sustainability. So my first role was a political lobbyist for Greenpeace in North Hertfordshire, and I helped campaign on the Arctic Sanctuary, which I'm still campaigning for, currently making a big sanctuary in the Arctic so that as we've got retreating sea ice, it is protected from fishing and exploitation and just exploitation of its resources in general. I was also a student ambassador for the Institute of Environmental Sciences, and I go to their annual Burntwood lecture. Last year it was hosted, the lead speaker was Professor Joanne Haig, who used to be the director of the Graham Institute at Imperial College London. She is a atmospheric physicist, I think, and the topic of the talk was the meaning of net zero. So yeah, I'm very much like involved in the sustainability world, but from a more science side of things. I'm very much coming at it from science and meeting and being around climate scientists and wanting to be a climate scientist myself. On top of those things, I've done many talks, radio interviews, workshops on sustainable living, talking about COP26 when it was COP26, talking about low waste living, waste free February, lots of other things, sustainable fashion, plant-based eating, things. I've done a lot of stuff like that over the years, so that's been very privileged to have done that. I even did a speech on circular economies at a MP summit, climate summit, so that was also a really amazing experience, and I really appreciate all the opportunities I've had to do that. So now I want to answer some of your questions. One of the most commonly asked questions is, how long have you been vegan? I've been vegan for almost 7 years now. Yeah, I was vegetarian previous to that from when I was about 12 years old, and I haven't eaten fish since I was about 10 years old. What's my favourite plant-based meal to cook? Was another question. I really enjoy cooking, but at the moment I'm quite busy, so I bulk cook meals. I like meals that are quite simple to cook, and since it's autumn I've been enjoying lots of pumpkin meals, but I don't know what my all-time favourite meal to cook is. Probably a noodle dish. I really love ramen, but I never really make it myself. It's just something I enjoy to eat when I go out or get a takeaway or something, you know, but I love ramen. What influenced me to go vegan? So really for me it was like a natural progression to going vegan. I had been vegetarian for a long time for ethical reasons. I grew up next to a butcher shop, and one day when I was catching the bus, the van came, they opened up the back of the van and there was a pig hanging upside down in there, a dead pig, and it just kind of hit me like a train that I was eating animals, and I was about 12 years old, and I went home that night. I went on the family computer, I found the Animal Aid website, I looked through the video vault and saw factory farm footage, slaughterhouse footage, and I went vegetarian there and then. I stopped eating fish prior to that because I went to a restaurant in Spain with my family and ordered something on the menu when I was about probably 10, and I didn't know what it was because I don't speak Spanish, and my mum ordered the same thing and we had to prepare the fish. They literally like took us to one side, showed us the fish, we were expected to like cut it, gut it, everything, and I just said no, I'm not doing that, and I didn't eat fish from then on. So I've never had shellfish, I've never had any steak, or mincemeat used to make me vomit, and the texture, I can't eat vegan mincemeat, the texture just makes me vomit, sorry. I would never have any blood on my plate as a child or eat anything off of like bone. Basically I wouldn't eat anything that looked like it was from an animal. Processed chicken nuggets, yes. I wouldn't eat sausages because they had like fatty bits in them, and that would also make me vomit. But yeah, so I never really liked meat anyway, and the only cheeses and stuff I liked were like cheese strings. It's not really like real cheese. Yeah, and then when I did learn what veganism was and educated myself some more on you know, the animal agriculture industry, health and environmental impacts of eating animal products, I then went vegan, and I've been that way for almost 7 years, so yeah. I then got a really interesting question about how I got into barefoot shoes, and this is quite a funny story actually, and I don't think I've ever really shared it like in its fullest. So I used to actually do powerlifting. I used to lift a lot of weights like 6-7 years ago. I got myself some Adidas 5-toe shoes, found these Adidas shoes in an outlet store, and I thought, oh, they're really good for squatting, because I would always squat in like Converses because they're zero drop, they're like flat, they don't have like a heel and stuff. So I got those 5-toe shoes, and for like about a year in my gym I was known as a toe shoe lady, and so I wore them to lift weights in, and they were really comfy. And then I thought, oh, you know what, I'll try running in them. Went for a few runs, quite liked it, and then a while later I went to an animal rights protest in London, and I met another animal rights activist, and she was wearing some zero sandals, and I asked her about her shoes, and she explained to me that she was barefoot. She wore exclusively zero drop barefoot minimalist shoes, and when it's done for her and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really incredible. So I went home, did a bit of research, got my first pair of Vivo barefoots and some zero sandals, started to transition, and then now, all these years later, I haven't worn conventional shoes in over 2.5 years, and yeah, we'll never go back. Linked to that same question is what was the transition like for transitioning to minimalist barefoot shoes? So for me, the transition took a long time because I didn't know anyone. The lady that I met that inspired me, I don't even know her name. She was just someone that I met that day. So I didn't really have anyone to learn from or follow online or anything like that. So I just kind of had to learn myself, and I found it really hard to find barefoot shoe brands that did things like boots, hiking boots, waterproof boots, smart shoes. So those were like I'd swap my trainers out and my everyday shoes, just like trainers. And then it took me a while to replace I had some vegan Doc Martens, took me a while to get some boots to replace those. The transition took about 3 years. In the end, the last pair of conventional shoes that I had was actually my vegan Doc Martens, and I remember the last winter I wore them and they were so uncomfortable because I was only wearing them when I kind of had to because of weather, and I would get such bad blisters and be just so uncomfortable, and it was awful. And then I would put like my comfortable Vivo shoes on and it was just like, oh, why can't I wear these all the time? And then yeah, I eventually did get some boots and figure out a way of, you know, like getting around that, and found a Hinza shoes and stuff, and so now I have like proper boots to wear in the winter when it's wet. So I also got a question about book recommendations, recommendations about animal rights books and sustainability books. So in terms of animal rights books, I haven't read that many. I find things like that very upsetting. I used to do a lot of activism, so I just feel like I'm just kind of like distance myself and things like that now because it's too much for me. Personally, but I have read a few things like eating animals. I'll leave them linked below or like type them somewhere. I also recommend some fiction books that aren't completely like animal rights books but are kind of related. So The Jungle by Upton Sinclair and Animal Farm by George Orwell are probably the most famous two that you could think of. In terms of sustainability books, as I've already said, I study environmental sciences. Like my passion is just like studying climate change. So I read a lot of books. My favourite books by far is Silent Spring by Rachel Carlston. I also really like The World Without Us by Tim Marshall. Tim Flannery's books are really good as well, so The Weathermakers, and there's another one as well that he wrote. I really like James Lovelock's books. James Lovelock was the founder of the Gaia hypothesis. All of his books are really good, and they're a tiny bit spiritual as well, which I kind of like to see in scientists. I like to see that they're sort of open to all kind of aspects of interrelationships with the natural world. Ploughs, Plagues and Petroleum by William Ruddyman. That's a very good book. I really recommend that. Again, it's like a bit more sciencey heavy, but it's very good. Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. That's also very good. And there's just loads of good climate science books out there. I would, however, just pre-warn you that when you go to a library or a shop and you look at books in the science section these days, a lot of them are absolute garbage. If you just look up the book beforehand, look up the authors beforehand, I would really recommend that you go for climate books that are written by scientists, because oh boy, I've read some shit ones, I'll tell you that. So because I've blabbered on a bit, I really hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed getting to know me a little bit more. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and again, don't forget to comment down below introducing yourself, and so we can have a nice little chat and hang out in the comment section. Anyways, have a beautiful day, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!